Hello and welcome to episode 9 of Sobriety Live. I'm Richie You, and today we're going to be doing a question and answer session. Thank you to everybody who's wrote in or text me on WhatsApp, the new WhatsApp number, which will be on the screen somewhere for you to carry on sending in your questions. I hope I've replied to all of them and give my honest sort of replies, and hopefully it's helped a few people out. And whoever's texted in has got a reply, and there's been a couple of emails as well. And I think on TikTok we reached, I think it's around 18,000 views. So that's absolutely brilliant. I'm really made up about that. So thanks to that. And obviously I do the legalities again. I'm not an expert. I don't work for any governing bodies. I'm not affiliated with anyone. I'm certainly not working for anyone who can give the advice and for you to sort of categorically follow the rules, because it's just my experiences. So please don't sue me. So we'll carry on then. So I thought I'd start by just telling you a bit about what I've been up to since I last spoke to you guys. Still out in Tenerife. Just been out for a meal with my couple of work colleagues. My brother and his friend, our friends, come over and give me a hand with the sort of manual sort of side of works, because I'm still in sort of recovery from the broken back issue. So I hope you enjoyed that story as well. I got some really positive feedback from it. So thanks for that. So what have I been doing? Just sort of starting the guys off at work, visiting sort of different jobs on the island, getting to look at the sort of nice touristy spots where, when I was drinking or when I was under the influence, it's sort of thing I would never ever look at. It was sort of either inside a pub or inside a bar or drinking alone. And this is the first time I've actually really looked at nature, I suppose. Brought the bike with me over here, so I've been on the bike a few times and tackled some of the hills, which has been pretty good for the back. So yeah, I've just really got down to nature a little bit, and I'm showing my age now. So yeah, just been cruising around having a look, and got a new tattoo done as well. So that was nice, got that done. And yeah, so it's a sort of working trip, but I've managed to take it easy and just keep resting and recuperating and sort of running my side of the office from out here. So yeah, it's been nice and hot, and I hope it's all right back there. And yeah, I hope everyone's looking forward to the school holidays. And if you've children watching, or kids watching, sorry, or adults, then have a great school holiday. Okay, so we're going to go straight into the questions, and I'm going to have to keep looking onto my laptop because the questions are on there, and I know we're not going to get through all of them, so we'll just choose a few of them, and hopefully I can give some honest opinions, which some of them are, it's just any question that's been sent in, I've just replied to them, no matter how silly they are. And there's been quite a few silly ones where they're quite sort of humorous, which I think is great. So yeah, okay, so we're going to dive into one of the questions, which is from Danny Boy 75. He's saying, well, I imagine it's a he, how old are you, and when did you start drinking alcohol, and when did it start to become a problem? Okay, I'm 47 years old, lived in the southwest for most of my life, and I came from a town in Oxfordshire, and I suppose my first sort of taste of alcohol was back when I was very young. Me and my brother would be sort of sipping like the parents' cans, whatever's been left over from a party, whatever. I'd say it could well have been sort of 6 years old, I'd imagine, sort of 6, 7, 8 years old, where we first started tasting alcohol, when alcohol was about the house. So, and then I suppose when it really, and I will go into it a bit more in depth a bit later on, but I suppose when I was sort of 15, 16, 17, sort of maybe 16, 17, I was always I would always drink excessively when we were out, if we were going to the pub with the lads, or I had to take it to the extreme. So I would go, you know, if it was just a few drinks, I'd have to have a few more drinks, and it started to become a problem, a bit of an issue really. I would say in my late teens, early 20s, and I would just act completely out of character and almost like put on a show, make myself look a tit most of the time, but that was the alcohol just taking over all my inhibitions. So I was just sort of completely out of it a lot of the time, when a lot of my friends who I was out with were just completely normal, and I just couldn't. I had to take it to the extreme. So, you know, it sort of progressively got worse throughout my late teens, early 20s. You know, it was getting a lot more worse then, and then obviously when I got into my sort of 30s, it started to become really regular then, and I knew I had an issue with it, but it was just hard to get out of that sort of cycle of, you know, the way I was living my life with my friends, my wife, and it was just sort of like, it was quite scary to sort of think about coming out of this situation and trying to live in sobriety, even though I really desperately needed to and wanted to, even back then. But I just felt almost like trapped, and I would say it became a really big problem, I would say, during COVID time, because a lot of us were at home, isolating from others, and obviously the self-isolation sort of thing, where, I mean, I could speak for, there's people who actually asked me about the COVID sort of side of things, and definitely I would say 100% the COVID turned me into, I would say, from a heavy drinker, where I would be drinking after work, sometimes in the daytime, weekends, yes, I've touched on that before, but then the COVID side of things turned me into a day drinker, and, you know, it definitely become a problem, and then it started getting more and more repetitive, and it turned into full-blown sort of illness then, I would say, alcoholism, or as they like to say now, alcohol disorder, yeah, something like that. So yeah, so it sort of, that's when it became a problem, and it progressively got worse. I'd done nothing about it until, you know, one day I sort of surrendered to the whole thing and needed professional help, and that's where it is with that one. So yeah, so thankfully now I'm living in sobriety, and I'm absolutely loving sobriety, and even talking to you guys and getting the feedback and seeing 17,000 followers, 1,300 friends on Facebook after 3 weeks, I think it is, all that is just really good positive vibes, and it sort of puts me on a really good start to the day. I've got a routine, and thankfully, yeah, that's where I am now. But yeah, that's the answer to the question. I would say COVID definitely contributed, and I think it affected around about 20% of men in the UK. So sort of they developed quite heavy drinking habits. So that was that one. Okay, let's have a look at the next question, which I've got here. What is the maddest and longest session you have ever been on? Crikey. Do you know, off the top of my head, I couldn't really answer that, but I can give you a sort of an idea of what the day in a life is with someone, and this will be repetitive, so it's like sort of do then repeat, and that is how your life becomes. This is how you live when you go on a sort of a session, or when alcohol takes over your whole life. So when alcohol is like the devil. It just will, I've said it before, it will drag you down into places you do not want to be, and you can lose everything: your friends, family, work, money, everything. So I'll just give you a day in a life. So during the worst times, I would get up. When I say get up, I haven't had any sleep from the night before, because I've been in just, you're sleeping very small amount of sleep you get, so you're just twitching, you're agitated, you're hot, you're cold, because that's your body actually starting into withdrawal. So, which we will touch on withdrawal, because that's another question someone sent in, which I'm going to have to answer in a different, I'm going to have to put a whole show for that. But so then you're not really sleeping, your body's in withdrawal, you're craving for alcohol, so you're up. Well, I'm up about 4 a.m. in the morning, and I am desperate, literally desperate to grab some kind of alcoholic drink to stop these cravings, stop this withdrawal, stop the itching, stop the pain, and stop the brain fog, so that basically you've woken up in a right state. Well, I keep saying you, but it's I've woken up in the right state, so I need to reach for whatever I can get hold of. It doesn't matter, you don't enjoy it, you don't enjoy the taste, you don't really enjoy the effect, but you just want to feel out of pain. So grab an alcoholic drink, and then another one, and then another one, and then you sort of like feel normal for, it will last about half an hour of feeling normal. You won't eat, well, I won't eat, won't drink no water, and all anything I do, for instance, if I have to answer the phone to someone, which is another thing I hide away, but if I have to answer the phone, I'd have to have a drink before I answer the phone. If I'd make a phone call, I'd have to have a drink before I make a phone call. This is the alcoholic mind just taking over your whole body, and your whole state of mind is absolutely horrendous, because there's a little element inside your head that knows this is not the right thing, but there's a bigger side that's the addiction actually takes over your whole mindset, and it's trying to get that little bit of normality or the consciousness in one side. It wants to take over completely, and that's when you see certain people on different levels of addiction and alcohol use. So it can vary. So then for the rest of the day, then I would be, and this is trying to run a business, 2 businesses, trying to be a dad, and you lose everything. You become unresponsible. Your speech goes, your look goes, you gain weight. So all the way through the day, this is a session which is happening, and then every sort of half an hour, then you need to have another can. I need to have another can of lager and Stella, or I need to have another 2 cans, and that will keep going all the way through the day. And like my partner, my wife, will be trying to say to me, you have to stop this, but it's just like in one ear out the other, because all you're thinking about is the next drink, which is really sad. So, and that will be repeat every single day, and then it turned into being sick in the mornings because you're urging so much, the withdrawal is really taking effect, and I could be being sick, and then a drink would stop that for half an hour or so maybe. So anyway, that is really what constitutes to a session, and that will be repeat, and that might repeat there for 3 months. So you don't go out, you don't socialise, your hygiene goes, your appearance, you don't take care of yourself. So yeah, and it's really sad to be in, but that's an honest answer to a question of a session. I wouldn't really want to just pick one individual session, because my whole life turned into a session during really bad times of alcohol misuse. Okay, let's have a look at the next one. How many countries have you been to in the world through work or pleasure? As you said, you like... Oh no, I like to travel, yes. So how many countries have you been to in the world through work or pleasure? Well, I did look at this actually when I was in rehab. I actually looked at it because I had plenty of time on my hands, and I've been to, I think it's around 24% of the countries in the world. I've thoroughly enjoyed most of them, from sort of, I would say, Azerbaijan to Nigeria to Liberia, some Angola, all of West Africa, all of Scandinavia, across Russia, obviously your Spain's, your Portugal's, and America, and so yeah, 24% of the countries in the world. And yeah, I knew that because I did search it up. There's an app you can get to actually put all the countries or holidays you've been on, and it tells you a percentage. So yeah, and I've seen some really rough countries and some really lovely countries, and obviously your Scandinavians, like your Norways, your Sweden, your Finland and Denmark, they're really, really clean and sort of really efficient. And then you go to somewhere like Nigeria or Liberia, where you're walking past almost like a government coup, where there's tanks from the army pointed at the government buildings, ready to blow it up and overthrow the government. So, and don't get me wrong, I've actually quite enjoyed them trips, like the Nigeria trip, which was really, really, really dangerous. However, it's all part of life experiences. So, you know, there was quite a lot of alcohol consumed at the time, but I have been in sobriety and gone to these countries as well, gone back to them, and enjoyed the trip even more. But yeah, you have to have it's not the sort of places, a lot of the places I've been to, like Syria, a war-torn place in the Middle East, you wouldn't bring your partner or your kids there on holiday, that's for sure. So there, hopefully that's an answer to that question. I've got here, what is the best way to stop drinking? I feel like I'm drinking far too much at the moment. And how do I work the sobriety? Right, okay, so I get what you're saying. The best way to stop drinking, well, I can't advise on the best way for you personally to stop drinking, but it all depends on the level of drinking, level you're at. Because if you're a chronic alcoholic where you are dependent of every minute during the day, and you're getting up in the night and you're drinking in the night, and you're really progressively into the addiction, you can't just stop. Let's get this straight. You can't just say to your partner, wife, husband, whoever, I'm going to stop tomorrow. That's me done for drinking. You've gone too far by then. So then you definitely need professional help on a detox program or a residential in rehabilitation centre, so rehab. So yeah, if you're really, really progressively into heavy drinking and you want to stop, then the best way it has to be medically induced. So please don't just try and do it on your own. You might be okay and try and white knuckle it. Well, white knuckle it, they call it, just sort of, it's like, you know, locked in a room and just trying to ride out the withdrawals, and it's really, really dangerous. I've done it a few times and it's not a nice feeling. It's a horrific feeling, because they say that the withdrawal from alcohol is worse than any other substance or drug, and I can vouch that it is not nice. So drink moderately. Moderately. I put the teeth in. So yeah, so it's not nice, and that's if you're really progressive. And if you're somebody who's increased their drinking, you know, if you're drinking sort of 2 or 3 times a week, and you know you want to cut down on your drinking, so say you were drinking 4 days a week, try and, you know, you have to write things down as well. You can't just say, oh, I'll do that tomorrow, or as they say in Spain, mañana, vale, mañana, which is obviously okay tomorrow, which never comes in Spain. So, but yeah, so you want to look at what you're drinking a week. And there's a good documentary on Adrian Charles on BBC One, where he wrote down what he was drinking a week on average, sort of thing. And it was really, really useful, because he didn't realise he was drinking so much, and so much above the government guidelines. So what I would do, if you was just sort of like a bit worried about how much you're consuming, is write down on average what you would drink every day, if you're drinking every day. And then, you know, it has to be slowly what you do, because if you do it too extreme and you just try and rely on the willpower method, you'll slip up, unless you're really strong-minded. I think it's 5% of people with a drink problem who use the willpower method only succeed. So that's 95% of people fail again. So, you know, I always say that, yes, once you go through the withdrawals and you actually become sober and you start living in sobriety, that's when the hard work starts, because you'll just be a dry drunk. And a dry drunk means, and we'll do a bit more on this in the podcast because I'm starting to run out of time now, but a dry drunk is somebody who's stopped drinking, maybe white knuckled it, or gone to a rehab, or, you know, tapered off, or been at a home detox, something like that. And then white knuckling it, have we talked on white knuckling? Yeah. No, sorry, dry drunk. You can tell this is a live recording. So dry drunk is somebody that has gone through the withdrawal. he's now in sobriety, or she's in sobriety, and they're trying to do it on the willpower method themselves, just with pure willpower. So, number one, they're not getting any aftercare support. So you need to follow some form of program, or follow, even if it's a self-help program. And I've touched upon places before where you can go, your local alcohol and substance abuse counsellors, either private or on the government one, which would take about 15 years to get on the list. But anyway, that's just another. Or if you've been into rehab, they always do an aftercare for a year. Or the AA. And you do need to do something, because willpower alone, and they call it the dry drunk, you're really, really putting yourself in a position where you're setting yourself up to fail. And then when you fail the next time, if or when you fail the next time and start drinking again, you start drinking heavy again, you've got to go through them withdrawals all over again. And guess what? They're twice as worse as the time before. So every time you relapse, and this is if you're a heavy drinker, every time you relapse and then you withdraw, because that's what the end game is, withdrawing, that withdrawal symptoms could lead to DTs, delirium tremors, which we will do a show on, and voices in your head. So, and that's very, very dangerous. If you do start developing symptoms of DTs, then you need to get to hospital as quick as you possibly can, because that can kill you, and it has quite a high death rate once people do start experiencing them symptoms. So yeah, so you need to get support. So back to the question, there's many different ways that you can do it. You can tapering off, where if you were drinking 10 pints a night, the next day drink 9 pints, the day after that drink 9 pints, the day after that drink 8 pints, the day after that maybe drink 8 pints, the day after that 7 pints. So then you're gradually tapering off from the alcohol, and you won't get such severe withdrawals. In fact, you get very minimal withdrawal. I couldn't do that. I just used to try and taper off. If it was 10 pints for one night, I'd end up having 15. So it never worked for me. But some people do swear by it. So if you can do the tapering, and before you know it, you've stopped. And that's when you need to get the support. So I hope that helps. So there's tapering. There's obviously the rehab. You can white knuckle it. At the end of the day, if you've only been drinking a couple of drinks a day, maybe then stop, because you're not progressive, you're just quite minor. Then what you can do then is just sort of cut it down to, instead of drinking 4 times a week or 5 times a week, just try and have a break in between. So one day on, excuse me, one day off, one day on, one day off. And then just sort of like read books, read information about it, because it is really good information that I never knew. And then once you start reading information into it, because the good thing is you've identified that you've got an issue, and that's the reason why so many people are writing in, because they have identified potentially got an issue. I mean, obviously naming no names, but somebody's wrote in saying they're drinking 35 cans a day. I mean, it doesn't shock me, but what I'm saying is that there's different ways we can deal with that kind of, aftercare plan, the plan for sobriety. And once we get off of them 35 cans a day, and there's a lot of factors that go into it, then we can sort of implement an aftercare program. So I think that was a bit long-winded, but I'm hoping, if you want to just email me or text me, because the WhatsApp text, that'd probably be better and a lot quicker. Just anything you're struggling with, or if you've got anything on your mind that you want to discuss, please just WhatsApp, text in, and I will certainly answer. So I've been speaking to a lot of people this week, a lot of other podcasters, and some, there's been a couple of like high-profile people I've spoken to this week, and they've given some great words of advice and just said, keep doing what you're doing. It's fantastic, and if you can help people, then help people, and that's exactly what I want to do. So, okay, and okay, do you dye your hair? Anonymous, no, I certainly don't dye my hair. I've never dyed my hair, and I know a lot of people rinse me about dyeing my hair, but I certainly don't, I promise. And if I did, it'd be raven black, but I don't. Okay, so I don't think we've got much time to read any more questions out, but I promise I'm going to do, I mean, I've got about 100 questions, so I will do another Q&A in the next couple of shows just to keep everyone sort of active. And if anyone wants to write any more questions in, please do. So you can email me on support@sobrietylife.org or WhatsApp me on the number here, or visit the website on sobrietylife.org. We're all over TikTok. It seems to be going really mad on TikTok, which is great. YouTube, Facebook, what's the other one? Instagram, and and Facebook. I've said that, yeah. But thanks for the support, and I've got some new ideas coming up. And I hope you enjoyed the show, and I will leave you all for now. And keep safe. And any problems, give us a shout, and take care out there. Bye bye.